Welcome to Dr. Will's Straight to Tape episode 8, and today I'm going to go over some of my training in relation to paces. So we're not going to get into power or heart rate today. We're going for training paces because with running, often that's what we look at. Especially now with Strava, we want to know what is our minute per K, what's our minute per mile, what does it represent in relation to our personal bests, our segments, and our mates. So today I want to go through, are you training too slow? And short answer is no, long answer is yes. So generally what I'll see is that you'll be training your slow stuff too fast and then your fast stuff too slow. So when an athlete comes to me, especially runners, and more recently, because I've been working with a lot of ultra runners, I'll see this kind of convergence on what we refer to as the gray zone. Okay, so that gray zone is sometimes referred to as like zone 3, or that like middle kind of hard, kind of easy intensity, where at the end of the session or at the end of any kind of run, you'll feel like you got something out of it, like no pain, no gain kind of thing. And that intensity is it's similar to a marathon intensity, or like a half Ironman type intensity. And so while that's not necessarily like a bad thing when it's structured into your training, like zone 3 or tempo, training is really important. It's in that sense, like it's not gray zone training when it's all fixed and structured in. But it becomes gray zone training when that's all you do. When your easy or moves all the way up into lower zone 3, and then your hard kind of just sits just above the top of zone 3 or zone 4. And you have none of this polarization that we like to look for and when you're training for any kind of distance. Ultra marathons require huge aerobic base, muscular conditioning, biomechanical fatigue resistance to the continuous loading that you have to undergo for a marathon. And then like a half marathon, say, so if you're looking, most people are going to be under 2 hours. That's a relatively steady state. That for some people that's going to be zone 4, some people that's going to be upper zone 3. Within that, you need to improve your running efficiency and economy, and so you need to improve your speed, and you need to improve your anaerobic capacity and your threshold. So you need to work hard. You need to work zone 4, 5 for that. And you need to do your slower continuous aerobic training. And where the polarization comes into that, both from ultra running and all the way to 5K, is that fast needs to be fast in order to get the right biomechanical running economy stimulus and actually improve and stress your anaerobic work system and not impact so much on your aerobic continuous steady state running. So what I'll show you here is 3 situations. If I can find my mouse, I've got 3 screens set up here. Okay, so this is if you can see 3 different time months of my training leading up to some specific events. So we have, if you start on the left hand side, when was this? This was leading, this was this month last year. This is leading into when I started building up for 24-hour national champs around an athletics track. Then in the middle is the so that was the beginning of this year, so that's leading up to Tarawera Ultra 100k trail race. And then we have just the last 28 days, which I'm building up for the 10k road race season and the Auckland Marathon in about 12 weeks. So what I'll show you, I'll just scroll down so you can get a better idea. So I've got 5 pace zones here. Normally I'd work with 7, but by default I had 5 because I was trying to work through something else. But anyway, I've got 5 here, right? So zone 1 through to zone 5. Zone 1 being like easy aerobic, same with zone 2, bit more steady state aerobic. Zone 3 is like your tempo marathon pace. Zone 4 is really like half marathon pace, 10k. Then zone 5 is kind of your 10k, 5k, and faster speed, absolute speed sessions. So I want to go through these three scenarios to show the polarization of training and kind of, are you training too slow in either end of your polarization? Like, are you training too slow for ultra, and are you training too slow in your fast stuff, or are you just training like in the middle? Like, where does your polarization sit, and where does your training intensity sit? And this is where zones are really good. And also having a plan or a coach can be super helpful. Even progress monitoring, setting your thresholds appropriately. So on the left, where I was building up for the 24-hour national champs, and you can see pretty much all of my training. So 54% was zone 1 and 36% was zone 2. So what's that? 54 and 36 is like 90% of my training was zone 1 and 2. And that was because, and this is pace, remember, this isn't heart rate or power, so it only reflects on, like, my threshold pace is around, I think at this time it was 330 minutes per K. So then zone 1 and 2 is like 80, just like 85%, 88% of that. So once pretty much I'm running slower than like 430s, which is, I'll generally run slower than that in the forest or on undulating terrain. I'm in zone 2. When I start running slower than like kind of just over 5 minute Ks, I'm in zone 1. So just as a reference. My zone 1, 2 is huge because I was doing 50, 60, 70, 80 K runs and around an athletics track. And for my training for 24 hours, hoping to run over 200 Ks. If you saw the video or that whole build up, like, I got heat stroke and pulled out at, or passed out, I guess, at 85 Ks. Anyway, with my training, I wasn't training too slow for what was required. There is no way I could train fast enough, like too fast or fast for 80 Ks. So what I was doing was, if you can see, pretty much there's 3% zone 3, 5.5% in zone 4, and then another couple of percent in zone 4, 5. So while I was getting like 90% of my training was fixated or directed towards the specificity of running for hours and out, like literally a whole day around an athletics track, that's zone 1, 2. There's no way around that. But I was not neglecting the other 10% in my speed and my economy. And so that's where I was really pushing for some like 5k speed to ensure I kept good range of motion, good force production, just general overall economy, so that when I was coming back down, if we say down in pace, that I was maintaining efficiency and I wasn't just getting slow. And then if we progress that onto the middle, which is building up for Tarawera Ultra, which is a trail ultra, and this is where paces can be, I guess, misleading, especially pace zones. So nowhere near as much zone 1. There's a lot more zone 2, so I was aiming for like 9-10 hours, which for me, like, I know I can run. The year before I did just over 10 hours, 100 Ks, like that's 6 minute Ks. But then my training was leading up, I was targeting kind of, 4 or 5 hour runs, and in order to do that effectively, to get enough stimulus, I'm not going to be running 6 minute Ks. I'm still on the trail, so I'm still going a bit slower than I would on the flat, obviously. So I was really, really trying to push zone 1 and up into a little bit of zone 3 for that block of training, that month, I guess kind of the month leading into Tarawera. And then I was working on a lot more tempo-based steady state. So what I realized leading up to Tarawera the year before, the 100k Ultra, was I'd really missed this block of running hard over undulating terrain consistently. So this is where last time I believe, although I did exceptionally well, placing 14th overall and running 10 hours for like a 100k trail run, I really noticed the lack of strength in the second half of the race, where in my training, once I got to a hill, I watched my heart rate and I just thought, I'll walk it, it's fine. I'm building fitness and I'm building conditioning for training for these long events. And that's what's most important. But then in the race, I really struggled on those longer climbs, especially when I was running faster for longer than I would in training, just due to the cumulative fatigue of training. And so for that zone 3 efforts, I started running more tempo hill undulating runs, which gave me the strength to run hills at pace. And so I was generating like a larger muscle recruitment pattern at a slower rate because it's hills, at a higher heart rate, so generating more force over a longer duration than just walking, which is a very different force application. So anyway, there was means to an end there, where previously it would have, like, my training looked more like what it did for the 100k, the 24 hour. I had a lot of zone on the left, a lot of zone 1, 2, and then I progressed more into like a zone 3, and then just kept in a bit of zone 4 and 5 for my overall like threshold and maintenance. And then if we have a look at on the right, this now, so this is the last month, very little in zone 1, because my fitness is amazing at the moment, and what I need to progress is in my is leading into the marathon, which in about 12 weeks, and my in the 10k road races that I have coming up. I've got to do a lot more road running, so that just indicates like a greater speed. So this is again where paces can be, maybe not super indicative of your training, because this is pace space, right? So my zone 2, now that I'm running a lot more on the road, I can be putting in the same effort for a faster pace than I would on the trails, where I could be putting in like an effort but getting a pace related zone 1. So that's where power is amazing, and heart rate. Here, for terms of description, I have a lot more zone 2, and I've really pushed zone 3. So that's where I've started to introduce marathon pace quite early in my plan. Why I've done that, whereas in the past I would have kept a lot more zone 2 and done a little bit more polarization in my training, I noticed that because I'm only reaching around 100Ks due to like work and family commitments, recovery, the ability to recover from my training, I've needed to increase the intensity in my longer runs and one of my weekly runs, where it would have just been a standard zone 2, maybe a little like couple efforts in there, tempo efforts, and I've really stretched that out to Tuesday mornings doing a 1 hour at marathon based effort, as well as increasing a progressive intensity within my long runs. And I've done that because I'm recovering really well, and I can't get those additional sessions that I otherwise would targeting those zones. And so I'm able to recover, I'm getting good intensity, I'm getting specificity, and what it's looking like is a lot more zone 3 than I would have otherwise probably like prescribed to anyone or done in the past. And then the zone 4 stuff that I'm doing is really, I'm starting to progress my anaerobic threshold, which is zone 4, for those 10k sessions. So I'm targeting the 10k speed and 10k specificity. I'm targeting marathon based intensity, which I found super important not preparing properly for the Rotorua Marathon, which I did in May. I did 2:38, but I slowed from like 3:30, 3:40s down to 4 minutes over the last 5Ks. And that was just cardiovascularly, I was fine. Fitness-wise, I was fine, but conditioning, I wasn't. To be able to output that kind of pace, like the force power, metabolic, mechanical power related to marathon pace over that duration does take a big toll physiologically and biomechanically or muscularly in terms of the damage. So I'm trying to introduce a little bit of that earlier in my plan than I otherwise would due to multiple factors, which I incorporate when I work with a lot of athletes, taking in those individual ideas about how to make a program work for you specifically. But I guess going back to the are you training too slowly is like, what is the specificity of what you're trying to do? Because here in my, if you're looking at the right hand graph and in my current marathon build up, it appears that potentially I'm situating like a lot of my training in the middle around that centered zone. And am I training fast or slow? Like, what's happening here? And this is probably where I see a lot of athletes' graphs, time and zones graphs looking, but there's no structure to it. There's no specificity as to why do you have zone 4 in there when you're building up for 5K. If you're building up for a 5K, you really need a lot of zone 5, otherwise you're just not working on the speed. And probably some zone 3, 4 for the tempo. But how far out are you? Are you trying to gain are you still pushing up your threshold because you just come off of a base phase? There's a lot that goes into it, and that's where just having an understanding of what your end goal is and what your paces are and what your zones are is going to indicate where you're sitting within those graphs. So I think I've kind of answered my question, but if I haven't, hopefully it's been entertaining, because that's the main thing, right? All right. That'll do us for today. So until next time, guys, happy training. Make sure you check me out. You can follow all my training on Strava if you want to have a bit of a stalk. Links are all in whatever description below. This is uploaded as audio, podcast, YouTube, wherever, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just check me out, and we'll catch up another time. See ya.